It was in the summer of probably 1970. I had recently, the fall before, left the monastery that I had been studying in and living in for the past 6 years. And I was living in Brooklyn, and I had just in that spring come out to myself, just for the first time. I'm at the age of 24. I just for the first time said to myself, gosh, I'm gay. Or I probably used in my head the word homosexual, whatever. I found out probably a report of a demonstration or something. I went to a meeting, probably one meeting at this point, of the Gay Activists Alliance, who were meeting in Manhattan at Holy Apostles Church on 9th Avenue at that time. And because of that, I knew that there was going to be a demonstration. But I wasn't planning on going. I wasn't quite ready to take that step. I lived in Brooklyn, but I had been over in Union City, New Jersey for the weekend with friends. Now, the way home then would be to take a bus to Port Authority, walk over to 6th Avenue in the D line, that is to say, walk through Times Square over to 6th Avenue, where I would get the train to go home to Brooklyn. And so as I'm walking through Times Square, there's this demonstration. It was a combination demonstration of the Gay Activists Alliance and the Gay Liberation Front, GAA and GLF. The reason for the demonstration, and this was so typical in New York, that especially if it's going to be an election year, politicians, quote unquote, clean up Times Square. And among other things, that meant for the police to go and arrest, or at least hassle and often arrest anybody who even in their mind looked gay. So the demonstration was in response to this. And I say, what the hell? They're here, I'm here, let's do this. And this was a really pretty simple demonstration in the sense that it was simply a picket line with banners and signs. No civil disobedience intended, no disruptive, nothing, just a very simple one. And then somebody got the bright idea to go down a few blocks away to the precinct that was chiefly the ones who were doing this harassment in Times Square. So we did that. But people were exuberant. So somebody says, well, I don't even know who that somebody was. I don't think anybody would know who that somebody was, right? Let's go all the way down to the village. Now, when we arrived at 8th Street, we arrived at 8th Street and 6th Avenue. And a couple of things were there. One is that there was still existing then, doesn't exist anymore, the Women's House of Detention, the temporary prison for women, was on that corner. The other thing was that 8th Street between 6th Avenue and probably 5th was closed to all traffic as being a summertime mall, pedestrian mall, until midnight. We kept circling the Women's House of Detention. And then we moved onto 8th Street, which was for pedestrians, and we were having a good time. We were primarily at that point dancing, having fun. Well, midnight comes along, and at midnight it was supposed to return to cars on that street. It was no longer supposed to be pedestrian, so the police wanted to open it up for that purpose, and we didn't want to go, you know, and we did not go. So you had this standoff. I noticed a couple of things. I noticed that there were some provocateurs in the crowd who might throw things at the police, but from a safe distance by throwing them over the crowd. On the other hand, I also noticed that the police, when that happened, would just pick somebody small nearby to beat the crap out of. All right, and at least metaphorically, I saw blood on the streets that night. By the time I got to Brooklyn that night, got back home to Brooklyn, I think I was a changed person. Before that, I was a young man figuring out what to do with myself. After that, or from that night on, I was a member of a community that was important to me, and I knew who my community was, and I knew where my place was, and in general what I would have to do, not specifically what I would have to do, but in general what had to be done, and that I would do it.